Well, hi. My name is Hagit. I know half of you, and I've seen you around, and then I've seen your work collages, right? Oh, then tell me about your work in a little bit. And I don't think I've seen you.
Your name's Hagit?
My name is Hagit. I teach at UL. I teach painting, and I teach the capstone program and drawing classes sometimes. So, and I'm a painter. So that's how. It's not on the presentation, but I'll be happy to show you. I can go in and out.
I looked at it, I like it.
Oh,
I
thank
looked at
you.
it.
Thank you.
My name's
Um,
Randall.
Randall.
Lovely.
Okay. Kind of from your,
From here, from,
so I guess, can you say your name and also say just how you're arriving here, with what sort of hopes or needs or whatever, what brings you to this sort of workshop, right? Where are you at your stage right now, and what do you do? So you're an artist? So can you say a little about your art?
mostly drawing, a little bit pen, a little bit watercolor, not
Uh-huh.
very productive, but a few things over the years.
Okay.
And, enough that somebody will have to deal with it when I'm gone.
Is that why we're here? For the somebody's,
I could put things in order for my daughter.
for your daughter. Okay, Randall. And tell me about your work. And what's your name again?
Mayor Martin.
Mayor Martin, right?
I'm a painter.
Yeah.
Watercolors, artists.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm here because I'm very interested to know about archiving and
Mm-hmm.
adding to the knowledge that I have, but from an
Yeah.
expert like you, and about a legacy, if you can call it legacy, when you're not famous, but just what to do with my work, like Randall
Yeah.
was talking about.
And is this the first time you're touching the subject, or have you like started to work on this before?
It's not anything formal.
Okay.
I've documented things really extensively.
Okay.
Yeah,
Over the years.
yeah, but making sure I have photographs of everything as much as possible, where the paintings have gone.
Mhm.
So
So you
much.
have all this information
yeah, I try
on
to-
paper?
No, on my
Excel?
website, and also I have a computer file with all my work on it.
Great.
So I try to have a photograph of everything.
Yeah.
as much as possible.
Yeah. So I think we'll talk more about your different solutions to different problems along the years, because it's an ongoing problem. And it's interesting also to kind of know when it becomes a problem. So it's funny because I'm talking to people about this workshop, archiving. What sounds more boring than archiving? But some people get it, and I can tell some people get it, like they have this problem, some people don't. But I know that for me, the problem, it was always there, but it took different kind of faces. So as a young artist, I was concerned about it, but but the challenge was very different than what it is right now. So at this point, I'm also in a stage where if I don't do something about it, I can't paint. So I have too many paintings, and it's, reasonably organized, but it feels like I also need this sort of jump as well. Oh, so they're taking over, yeah. And this is
been painting for, I don't know, 40, 50 years of that. So it's a long time. And even though I administer the grants here, I work,
yeah,
outreach and all that, of course. But I'm also a practicing artist and have been
Yeah.
for a long time. I love painting. I've done sculpture and ceramics and all sorts of things.
yeah,
But I have most recently turned to acrylic paints. And
okay,
I was painting in oils from dirt until the hurricane, I'll say that.
Oh,
She
okay.
took most of
All
my
of your
work.
paintings, and you're like, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, she took.
if that's how you do it, no, that doesn't matter. I don't want to paint anyway.
Yes. And I actually sat on for a long time.
Yeah, I can understand
And,
that.
and I also have a degree in fine arts and art therapy. So I've
Uh-huh,
done art therapy, practiced art therapy for 15 years. Which is
Yeah.
Really great.
so legacy may take different forms, right? It could be about the work, and it could be about other areas in your life, that in your professional life. And it could be about your private life as well. So we'll talk about how to think about what's in there, what gets in, what doesn't. Anna, are you like facilitating or participating or both? Okay. Thank you for your facilitation. Okay, so in order to do something like archiving, I need to get myself interested. This is just my style. I can't, like my sort of focus, tendency, I guess. Some people can do things because they're afraid. I need to do things because I'm excited. So just realizing that and approaching all of the materials online and doing the research for it, I was like, okay, what is there for me? And it connects so these are the two things or the three things that I'm kind of connected to, and I just put that as a reminder for myself. And so first of all, this kind of meeting, I see it, especially after seeing all the extensive material on this and the level of professionality that exists out there. There are resources, there are institutions that are dedicated for that, and people that have been doing that for over 20 years or more, and things are changing in this field. So I come to you as a painter, as a fellow artist, and with a shared problem or interest, maybe, that like I've done some research and we're working on it together. I don't claim any kind of special kind of like insight, yes, but I'm not a professional archivist, let's say. So that is like, so here, and I didn't know who's gonna come. I have students that thought they would come, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna have you, because you're the only one I knew of. And I'm gonna have a couple of my students that are just beginning their career. So I had to prepare a presentation that is that is kind of covering both ends in a way. But we can kind of skip some of the stuff and focus on the things that matter to people in the room. So I'm thinking about it more as a meeting that will be, there they are. They're not my students, but they look like they could be. Hi. I'll finish the sentence and then you'll introduce yourselves. Is that cool? Okay. So I'm thinking about this meeting as a place where we can start the conversation. I'm looking at you because, like if we go deeper into that, I can see kind of two avenues. One, I guess three. The first is you as an individual artist are, embarking on this, using these resources and, getting a team and making it happen. The second is that as a community, maybe there are a few of us interested in that, and we can kind of help each other in forming a group that meets every now and then, however much we need, or maybe we come together to bring speakers from different, different places that we may need, or we hire one person that could do work for all of, I don't know, just kind of thinking that this could be one way to go about this, and the other is as a kind of a series that maybe will grow if there's an interest, and we can bring people that have been working on this for years. So, all right, so we're gonna stop a little bit and tell us who you are and how you got here. what brought you here? Uh-huh,
I'm Deborah Miller, and I'm studying to be an elementary school teacher.
Uh-huh.
We're both education majors,
okay,
and I was hoping I could get the arts classroom, and I've been learning about sensory and stuff like that. Like I was the one who looked at the bright colors, and now I kind of want to chill vibe a little bit. So I'm kind of trying to find my little person.
okay. And what brought you to a workshop about archiving? Or is it non-specific? You did?
She did. One of my teachers, she informed me about it, and also
Okay,
I just thought it would be a great way to get ideas of how to incorporate, different ways of art, like of course in my classroom, and how to just foster art in general in my classroom.
yeah. That is very interesting. It's a very different entry point. To me, what that means is a few things. I mean, one, as a student that maybe you're looking for work, and there's people that maybe are looking to hire other people, maybe there could be something of an interest, just here in this room. But as educator, I guess this is not so, you will not be tasked with anything like this. But it's good to know that these are the concerns that artists have, in the sense that you can then, first of all, maybe find some of these archives of local artists, people that are, in our area and a little above, that have been going through this process and incorporated into classwork, which could be really interesting. And another is to know sort of the categories of art objects, things that are considered, valid historical records, right? This is kind of what we're talking about. All right, so this is a conversation. You can interrupt anytime. So I was just going through just my kind of access points, like my anchors into this. And one is the idea of creating this time capsule with your stuff, right? The time capsule that tells your story. And it's really, a way to give something to the future. And that makes it, to me, a conversation that is multi-generational, conversation that is, like it has deep history. It's really a conversation with history, in a sense that could just make it more interesting to actually do that. Because, it could be very useful to organize everything so that our kids will have easier job, later. And that is valid. That is an important point. But it could also be so much more, as a way of controlling the story and creating the story. And so from the perspective of the story, because a lot of the materials that you see online, this is what they're talking about. You create your own story. How do you put it? What is it that is important for you to pass on? So when I think about this combination of history, right? I mean, creating your story and history, I'm thinking about all these histories that are erased, and that this is a way to insert yourself in history and to control the terms, control who your lineage is, like who your grand teachers and teachers, right? And like who are your sort of artistic ancestors in a way, right? How do you position yourself? Who are your contemporaries, which can be people you know and can be people you don't know. So, but your art converse with them in some ways. So it's almost, I told you I need to be excited, and it's kind of like that. It needs to be political in some ways for me to engage with it. And the politics of the archive is really the politics of deciding what matters, and putting yourself in there. And understanding that as a service to your community that you're representing, you're coming from. It's not just you. Your voice echoes all these different environments that you were in. And that perspective is treasure. I'm just thinking about, my mother died a couple of years ago. I'm just thinking about all the material, like having access to materials like this, of someone that, there's close and died could be an amazing, connection that is endless, that depends on how much material you have, So I can talk more, but this is just so you understand how I'm entering. Of course, on a personal note, I am a painter. I teach at UL. And so I've been painting for over 20 years, which is a moment, like at some point, and even when work goes out and comes back in, like there's always more work with me than what sells of each exhibition. So I'm never selling everything. It's never, and I don't think I would want to get rid of all of my personal collection, right? That's the term. But it is a moment where I realized personally that if I'm not going to, or let's say in order to do what I need to do next, I need that layer to be organized at a different level. I need things to be accessible. And it's a process that I started a few years back, so it's ongoing. All right, so I want to start by talking about the goals, and then we'll go a little more into the hows and the whys. And this presentation, if you have any need for it, you can have it. It's really just information from resources that I'll show you, and so you don't have to write anything that is there. But I will appreciate thinking together and understanding, okay, where are you at right now with this problem? Because I think that's the first stage. Is the first stage for you right now a stage of figuring out the story and what goes in and what doesn't? Is the stage for you to organize your studio? Is the next stage for you to organize the database, the inventories that is online? Where is it really, where is it stuck right now? So keep that in the back of your mind to kind of, when the real question comes for you, just, put a little hook in it and be like, okay, that's mine. This is where I am at this point. Okay, so the first thing that we'll talk about is the whys and the resources, why we're doing this, and then the resources that it takes. So the first thing to say, okay, I can actually do this. Yay. So that the first question, the question of why, I think is a very important question that, given that we're just a few people, maybe we can sort of touch base on it individually, and you can decide how you fit in this or not. We'll see. And so the reasons for this could be many. It could be related to where you are in your career stage, right? So it could be that you just need to kind of jump up your opportunities and you want to show more. It's the time, you have all the work, and you just need things to be organized in order to get the work in and out and back easily, and to not lose any opportunities. And that means, you need to understand what are the materials that you need. So of course you need your inventory, but now you would think, okay, I need an inventory of things that I can ship, that I can actually set, this is my priority right now. I need, I need to organize the pieces that are actually candidate for shipping, because not everything is. Maybe some work is too big, maybe some work is not in good condition, maybe you don't have some of the work, right? And then the motivation could be, so that my kid won't hate me when I die. I sometimes fantasize a bit about a big party when we're like a near death party, where I will just, here are all my paintings, whoever wants any, just take it, and if not, I'm gonna burn the whole thing down, And actually, this is how I kind of started talking about this with friends, and they were like, no, like you gotta think about this properly. So when you're thinking about the next stage in terms of beyond your career, or beyond your life, it gets really tricky, right? But it's not necessarily that different than what you would say about your work when you're alive. That's the funny thing about it. So the artist or the spirit of your work is the same. It's just that I feel like what that project gives is an in-depth examination. So now you're not just sending a gallery, a blurb that is 50 characters or else, right? You're documenting everything that is relevant to a piece. And it could be a letter that you sent to someone, or it could be the in-progress images that went into the creation of it. It could be like receipt from a trip that originated the whole idea. I don't know. It's up to you to create the story. And so the why, in my mind, is very much connected to the end result, as in what kind of format do you have in mind? Is it a book? Is it a website? Is it a hard drive on your computer? Is it something that you navigate and that you operate, or is it something that is a service to the community? And it could be all these things in different times, in different stages, but this is sort of a map that I'm seeing there. And what is very, very obvious is that this is an endeavor that takes time, it takes money, it takes people, it takes support, and it takes a lot of thinking. So it's not something to be like, all right, done. And it also takes an emotional toll, I think, to revisit all of these events in your life. And so now you're gonna look at all of these things that are highly evocative for you, and you have to decide if they go in or out of your story. Like, I can't think about a lot of things that are more charged, right? So you've got to give yourself that time and the support to actually do it. And without it, I would say don't even try, until you create kind of the support system for that. But without it, you can also do a few things, a few steps that every artist can do to at least make your life a little easier. And so I kind of, in my fantasy, we're stopping right now and we're hearing from you, but we'll go a little further and maybe then we'll open up a little more. Okay, so I looked into a methodological break, going forward a little bit. I looked into a few resources that before I go on, I want to just share with you, if it comes up. All right, I'm going to do that. So, creative capital, maybe I guess, do you all know about creative capital? You don't? Okay. And of course you do, but Creative Capital is a very good resource for kind of the state of I don't know, like the visual artist etiquette of the time. And this is kind of a safe place to go to look at how materials are expected professionally to be presented. And there are always a lot of options, more options than we need, but at least it gives you an idea that, you know, you'll be within the
And this word you said was, thought it was skit, it was etiquette, maybe?
etiquette, like
Okay,
professional practices.
yes.
Yeah. More professional practices than etiquette in the sense that it's not you know, a non-formal sort of expectation. People actually expect certain formats for certain applications, and usually they're declared very clearly. But what they do is, well, what they do is they give mentorship and fellowship that is pretty significant to artists that are kind of working on the edges of different mediums, and have a project that would take $50,000 to disseminate, and will, of course, you know, like contribute to their career in a way that their mentorship judges, you know, positive.
Well, and the Creative Capital Fund.
The fund,
It is closing soon, so Herald, John on that.
yeah, I don't know if maybe a project like this could be interesting, especially if it's connected to the community in some ways. The whole process of archiving your work, you know, could be an event, not just a chore. You're like, what, really?
I think something like that, Elmore grant got, I think Mary got a grant for Elmore's for. Yeah.
For archiving? I mean, I can see that. I don't know if Creative Capital will be the best place to do it, but depending on how it's done, right?
Project Space.
Yeah,
I think Joe Mitchell.
and John Mitchell is the other one. So I'm just saying that to you as just as a reference of who they are. And another thing that they are is a resource for, you know, for professional practices generally. So they have a lot of workshops on different areas that are related to living a creative life.
I mean, the whole reason that creating Acadiana has been in the first place.
Yeah.
We have started streaming their workshops here, and then we decided that we wanted to employ our local artists to give up their expertise instead of paying an organization in New York.
Right. Right. And they come in, they bring their experts, and their experts are artists. Yeah. And yeah, they're awesome. I've been in a couple of their workshops before. And it's very useful, and what I appreciate there is that they are preparing artists to financial security. They're working on issues that are artist-based, you know, that artists are concerned about as people. And so everything is done from the perspective of the artist and for their well-being, you know. So there's a lot of information that you wouldn't necessarily get in school or from a gallery, from places that are, their goal is external to the person. It's either education or profit, you know. So Creative Capital is interested in, I think, in that sense. And it's always sort of the latest word, and it's sort of updated. So this is it's a name. It does. There is a corporation
Oh,
with that name. There's a bank, I think, in that name. It always comes up.
I wouldn't have gone to that, he wouldn't have told me that it was a good place, you know.
Yeah, it
Turned
wouldn't.
out really not.
I wonder who got the name first, but I can understand the name from Creative Capital's perspective. They're giving substantial capital to creative projects, but yeah, it sounds corporate. I agree. Okay, so in this page, there's a bunch of links. That's what's useful about this page. And so it's in the presentation, and they give, what I appreciate about this is that they did some of the legwork, and they give a picture of what's happening in that area. So John Mitchell Foundation stands out in this area. The Downs nomadic activist program. I think this is a dance. I think I have it in the presentation a bit. And then a couple of the other websites are interesting because they are actually redeeming some of the lost testimonies about, in different communities. And there are a few of these websites that are dedicated to preservation of Black culture in different areas of the country, but these websites function more as museums, or like places to go and see. But I'm sure there's also services there that could be granted, for artists that are working, that are looking for people to help them. But the most useful in my mind of all of these to take on as in like one resource that you can kind of work with is the John Mitchell Foundation archive program, I would call it. Yeah, it is a program. Look at that. Legacy Planning Guide. Because what they have a story. They've been doing that for many years with a lot of artists. So they have the experience of actually going through this process and seeing the variety of it. And out of this, they created these books, and they make a point of making it free and accessible. This book here, you can buy it as a regular book. You can listen to it free as an audiobook on Spotify. And you can look at it as an an ebook by just downloading it. I did it on my computer. I don't want to do it on Gwen's computer, but unless you want to. But it's a very kind of organized book that takes you step by step and gives a variety of points of view. So every chapter is organized by is written by a different artist. And these artists are coming from a variety of backgrounds. So it has this diversity to some extent, but it also has, it has this advantage of being one singular object that it contains the whole process, and you can always supplement with other things. I find that useful. There are other ones, that I can show you, but to me, a lot of the information that I'm showing you is coming from there. And what's useful, I guess what convinced me to use that in the end was that they are doing this, they are examining this problem from the artist's perspective, from the artist's well-being perspective. And so there are a lot of points where you feel like this is relevant. So we're not here to labor over something that is meaningless. We've done that, right? This is for everyone, arriving to this to the intersection, it will be kind of the flavor, If I want to do something meaningful, I want to either I'm willing to organize so that I can do something more meaningful, or I want to engage with a meaningful storytelling about my work. And so that means that the whole process needs to be supportive and positive in the sense that it, empowering. Because if it's going to take, I don't know, 4, 8, 1 year of your life, and you're going to suffer through it, that doesn't make sense to me at that stage. And I don't think the story is going to be very good. But everyone has its style. If you want to suffer, go for it. I'm in favor of going for. Okay, so that is a book that they have, and then they have services. They have actually like people that would meet with you and talk to you if you want to spend the resource on that and the time. I guess it is a resource. Look, residences in New Orleans. I didn't notice that. But that's the regular John Mitchell Foundation stuff. So creating a legacy. Gives you a general, like this is an advertisement to join their workshop, but then in the end they have these blogs with individual chapters or worksheets from the book. So it's so that's a good resource. And no, it's not letting me. Okay. Forward. Maybe I shouldn't get out of there. Open again. This is Safari. Should I just like close and open it? I didn't close. Just use it like that. Oh, okay, good. You see it normally. That's okay. It's showing. Sorry about that. I'll stay in here. Okay. All of this is just to tell you where I'm taking this information from. Okay, making time. Okay, so in that book, they give you things like tables like this, where you can kind of go in there and ask, all right, what are the questions that I need to ask myself? So, so one thing that I appreciate is that little note of creating a system based on your type of memory, in a sense. So understanding how your memory work, and then based on that, you would decide when you put what information where, right? But those are the big questions. What is your purpose or big vision for creating the inventory an inventory system? And this is, I think, a question that takes time to answer and takes conversations with friends, and we can start having a go at it. But it has to be clear is what I think. If it's not clear, it's going to be very hard to create an inventory and to create a sort of a legacy, comprehensive sort of resource, right? What aspects of your studio practice do you want to track and document? And that goes into once you understand the story, you understand what you're letting go, what doesn't get into that story. And so, like I said before, that moment may not be that easy. Forced to decide what's important because for you, it's your life, everything is important. But then also emotionally to let go of things that you are basically planning to be erased from history in a sense, right? So to me, if you want, what that means to me is if I want a solid practice and a result that is actually insightful, I'll have to give these processes their time. I can't rush it. I need to really know what story I want to tell, and what stories need to be heard, in my opinion, let's say. What is important to communicate about your practice? And you can look at it in different ways. Of course, there is like what is important to people, which, to people outside of you, people that are enjoying and can use your work. But then there is a question of what has to be told about your practice so that you will get, the picture will be complete in some sense. What are the major things that you do in your art? What are the major objects that you create? Maybe it's about people. Who are the people that need to be informed, that need to be in there, maybe their voices need to be there. So there's a lot of sifting through materials. How do you envision the system to benefit you? And that is, again, that's the understanding of where you are in the career and what you wanted to do. Are there aspects of your studio practice that you might want to omit or leave out from being documented? What will be the function of your inventory system, and who will it serve? So of course that is, the $1 million question in some ways, right? But what you can create the usability that will invite certain people and not others. So who do you want to attract? What kind of reader or someone who would, interact with your work? Who would that be? What is your archive demanding from them? What type of concentration? Is it something that is easy to flip by and to decide, okay, I want this? Or is it something that takes a little while to kind of understand? It's up to you. What artwork must you prioritize in this process? And I've seen a few suggestions that came up through these resources and into how to start the process, really. And a lot of what comes up is, no, here, I have my copy. Is the same attitude that you would take when you're documenting your work in a CV. So present to past is typically how to start this. Which makes sense too, because it's like present in the sense of what do you actually need immediately. It could be work that you've done 20 years ago, but you were looking to show. And so it is needed now. But it could be, I don't know, for me, I always show the latest work, so it makes sense to start with that. But I could see a time where I would start showing older work or show it together in some ways. And the type of inventory organization that worked with you in the past. So this is touching on, and there's a whole section just on that, the people, right? The people that would work with you, basically. Who can you call on for help? What sort of service do you require that you would pay for, right? Who are the people in the community that may be partners for this? Who are the partners in the community that may be like colleagues in a sense of like doing the work with you. Um, so if you go through these books, you'll have worksheets after that can really help you kind of work these questions out and step by step answer them. It is a big kind of subject in that there are a lot of different types of objects that could be cataloged, and in different fields it's, you know, it works differently. So whether it's ephemeral or physical, or whether it's digital or not, all of these matter, and all of these are documentable. And so the first thing to do is to understand what are the things that you document. And they brought in the physical objects, the narrative, which could be in the form of a digital file, you know. It could be in the form of titles. The narrative can come in different forms, right? It could come in the form of actual text that is connected to the pieces, but it can come in the form of the organizational system. You know, so for example, I can organize my paintings based on year. So look what I did when I was 17. Oh, now I was 18, now I was 20, 40, you know, that's one story. And there is another story, which is, you know, look at all of the pieces that are connected to the imagery of caves in my, you know, which are like people with open mouths in my paintings. And so now you have all these characters, and it could be locations or series or whatever format that it takes, that will organize your, you know, your narrative. And that takes a more of a kind of world building, right, narrative. So I think narrative is an important question to ask and to consider in terms of everything that you can use to disseminate it. So it's not just text, is what I'm trying to say. Yes.
Like keyword searches for that type of stuff, or like what is, like, you're just specifically talking about narrative building, like narrative around each piece.
So what do you mean by keyword? I mean, I know what do you mean about keywords?
When I think about narrative, I think about like easy.
Uh-huh.
So like, do you use like keywords that are associated with each piece, that then like, you know, bring up a theory that will have certain keywords?
Yeah, so there is an online archival service that does exactly that. But and that is that you put all this information in and it's searchable, and then you can create labels. And so, for example, I have a painting called Cave, but I also have a text called Cave, and they will both come up when I am doing a search for Cave. Or I'm doing a search for all the work that was shown in a specific exhibition, and I can type the name of the exhibition, and the work will come up and the publication will come up. So everything that is labeled with that. But what your question is touching on is what database software you're going to use. Because it really depends on whether you need that functionality or not. So I was going to show you that digital thing. I'm afraid to click. Okay, let's just go one thing at a time then. So so the narrative in the scenario that you're describing is really how things are organized, but it's also it is organized in a way where the viewer or the user is the narrative creator. When you can click on, you can make a search on different things, but you kind of plant the seeds because you create the labels. So yeah, how people will interact is going to be how the story is told. Operational, and that is everything that has to do with the work making this happen, right? Like the people that are involved, the time, the planning. Sometimes there are physical operational elements that came up, like protection of the work. But in the physical category, you'll have everything that pertains to physical existence, right? So it will be the work itself, but it will also be things like where is the work stored, and everything that has to do with maintaining the object itself. And digital is where the database is. Digital is where the inventory list is, right? So this is the kind of the general elements that are documented, or the general areas, they call it, of what is what the process of documenting your work entails. It was very hard for me to like take parts and not put more and more, because so many of these things were very useful. But I thought that was particularly useful, and that is they're kind of taking you through the steps of starting this process, and so like what it looks like. And of course, like anything else, the 80-20 rule, do you know this rule? I love this rule. The 80-20 rule states that most of the things you do, you are spending 80% of your effort for 20% of results, and you need to flip that relationship. And so you need to isolate the one action that would yield the most result and is the easiest to do those first. And the little bit that the 20, like the last 20% you'll do in the end, you don't start with the details, you start with the mess. So maybe that is like, you just need to accept the fact that you need to rent a storage facility. Maybe it's something like that. Maybe you need to start looking for an assistant. Or, it could be things like that are simple to do, but they're hard, like to decide on. Okay, so inventory, what matters most, again, it's about prioritizing. So the whole story is about deciding what matters and what doesn't. But what you do and what they invite us, I guess, the readers to do, is to sit and think, okay, what are the 10 things that have to be in my inventory? The first things that, must be in my inventory, and once this is cleared, and it could be a list of bodies of work. Of course, they represent me and they're very important. Not sure about that one, but I know this one, or let's say if you had to choose 10, which will be the first 10. But notice what else comes into this list, because I know for me, I have a lot of writing, but I'm just thinking through writing. It's not, so deciding, that all of it will be in or some of it will be in. This is a decision that, it could be either very quick or a very long decision. Now I have to edit work from all these years. So pay attention to what you feel like you need there. It could be letters, anything that explains, the story. Think about our history books and what goes into them. Everything is interesting. All the gossip is interesting. So actually, if you tell more, it's going to benefit. The more juicy it is, the more interest there will be in some sense. But of course, you want also the body of, writing down the content of what you want, the meaning that you want passed. And so here is an example from their worksheet. This is an example of what short-term and long-term are. They have a long session on how to decide on a goal and, use goals that are smart, right? You know about this. They're specific, they're measurable, they're attainable, they're realistic and timely. And this is very important to goals, but could be detrimental to visions. So this is where you need to understand, I guess, where you are in terms of between the visions and the goals. Do you need to spend some time on the vision at this point, or do you have it really clear? And I would love to hear from you on that in a little bit. And so in that sense, the long-term goal could be more like a vision, and the short-term goal, which I don't know if I put anything, is something that you will be able to tell if you achieved it or not. Where a vision is something that is best if it takes you your whole life to fulfill. Like if it's not achievable, it's actually better because it's active. But goals need to be active. So long-term goal would be, 10 years from now, I want to have a website that will contain all of my, all of the main categories of my work with a majority of them, let's say. That could be a long-term goal for me with everything, right? But a short-term goal, like a really short-term goal, could be go and check. A real good one is to pay for the, for the web, make sure that the website is up to date. But maybe a short-term goal could be something they brought up about archivable website, could be about going into my existing website and making sure that every image is titled correctly and every link is exactly as it should be, doing my little research to understand, what's the professional kind of sequence, but mainly just making sure that all my images are titled, that I didn't just upload it from somewhere and it's presentation 3, like this one is, that it has a meaningful name. That's just an example. So here are their examples. So a short-term draft of plan, of course, we need plans. And then physical organization could be the first step. Like, first of all, you're looking at your studio. Most of the artists, most of the art is stored in the artists' houses and studios. And so understanding that, like, you want to first understand where is all your work. And once you understand, where the work is in your house and you've written this down, you will then think about where is the work that is no longer in the house. And if you're organized, you find a list somewhere. And if you're not, you need to start looking through emails or whatever and finding out, or you decide to drop it, and to start from now. That's also okay, I think. So physical organization could be a first step. Digital organization could be, digital organization has to do with a digital assets, and that is different than the Excel sheet with a list of inventory. That is the images of the work that documents, let's say, your paintings, or a video of your performance. So it's materials that are stored digitally, but they're image-based or visual-based. And digital organization information about the artwork. So so there's kind of like a feel for what it may look like. This is what that is. And I don't know if this is coming, I'll say it here, that the first step after, you you organize your studio a little bit, is to start connecting the physical and the digital. And that is connecting the physical and the digital. So that would mean for every piece, for every physical piece, there's going to be a digital kind of match. And you will know, you'll have a system that connects the physical. And so it could be that you have the inventory, the inventory number that connects them. Could be that the titles connect them. It could be that the list states where it is. So how it is doesn't matter as much, but it's a system that connects the physical and the digital to the point that you say, if it's not on the list, it's not in, you know. So if I want it in, I need to, and if it's not, and for, you know, everything that is in the list is referring me to these particular storage places in the house or outside the house, or it could be a museum, it could be a gallery too. And so that would be the first step, because it's kind of technical, but it lays the ground. And here's the little emotional disclaimer, which I think is significant, because I think a lot of why we don't do it is buried there. So I think acknowledging that this is a big emotional work is going to help make it happen faster. You know, and acknowledging that you need support. Maybe you need a friend to do it with you. Maybe you need a family member to do it with you. You know, maybe you don't want people that are too involved and you want to hire someone. Or maybe you just need to take your time and to not judge yourself for, you know, kind of productivity for a while. But what it is going through all of this, so sifting through years of artwork, ephemera, which are things that are not necessarily, that don't have physical residue. I mean, they're not stored physically. And records also mean revisiting welcome and unwelcome memories associated with them. Extend yourself some grace while you unpack and recognize. Storytelling is actually more possible when you're emotionally charged, right? So in a sense, it's not, you're not, I don't think the goal is to avoid those difficulties, but to kind of channel them into the stories. Like if something is embarrassing to me, really, then I know I have a good story there. Maybe I don't want to tell it, but you know, but that starts directing me, like just that feeling of what makes me proud. What do I think people would enjoy hearing too? And it's up to you. You can decide to hide all of the embarrassing things or to show them. Like this, I think, is more a matter of, I don't know, values, styles, all kinds of things like that. Okay. So the next bit is about creating a system to make this happen. So maybe before we do that, we can hear a little bit from you and where you stand, because I think I can skip some of the stuff and lean on some others based on where you are and what's interesting to you. So I guess my question would be, if you're thinking about where you are in terms of vision and goals, you know, or answering the question, what is your narrative, right? Do you feel like you have it, like where do you feel you are at in relationship to this question?
What was the question?
Where are you in relationship to the big vision, the storytelling, the narrative about your work?
Did someone else going to speak?
Yeah.
So for me, I'm not an art major at all. So when you were talking about inventory, you're kind of like talking about like actual artwork. But I was thinking of it in a deeper manner of education wise. So I was thinking of myself as like the artist in like the classroom is
Mhm.
my artwork. Because
Yeah.
I'm going to be the one putting up these signs for these students. So I thought about having the goal of it feeling more so secure and safe towards the students instead of it just being all educational. Like, of course, it's gonna be educational, but I want my students to walk in and feel and see something on the wall and like come up with their own story. Like, it's not just something, oh, it's like this is this. I want them to see something on the wall and be like, oh, I think the story goes like this, and another student can say something different. So I'm thinking like finding out a narrative that doesn't seem like it's one-sided or just my personal side. It's more so letting everyone see a different story.
So for you, you're creating, your space is the classroom, but you are communicating these ideas, and what's important to you to communicate through the design and the information on the wall and all of that is the ability of the students to choose and to create their own narratives. So there's some kind of freedom that is important there for you. Am I right? Okay. So let's hear some more.
You know, in my case, I've been doing art for so long,
Mhm.
and my ideas have changed
Yeah.
and I've gone in so many different directions that it's hard for me to have one narrative or to select the narrative that I want now, even.
Yeah.
So, remembering things.
That's okay.
It's the term that I'm looking for that I can't,
Oh.
but it's just, harder for me because I have such a long view to look at.
Yep.
It's hard for me to come up with something without going back and going back and going back and trying to find the main thing that I want to use as a narrative.
Yeah. And maybe you don't even want one narrative. You want
Yeah.
all of these multiple narratives
Yeah,
possibly.
At my age, it's like I'm going in so many different directions
Mm-hmm.
that it's actually difficult.
Yeah.
I'm not honing in or concentrating, I'm spreading it.
Yeah.
And it's just a personal thing.
It's definitely hard to decide on the singular
If
narrative.
I put all my artist statements in a row, it
Mhm.
would be like 20 different people.
We should do a show like this. A project. Yeah, you think it would be different? You think that it would feel like a different artist?
Yeah, I think it would. My style, everything.
It's
just the way I work. It's not a usual thing.
Yeah, it's actually, I think, a normal development of an artist's career. Like if it all looked the same all these years, you wouldn't be interested
Right.
in doing it. Okay, so that is a major, like difficulty to kind of overcome. Like, how do you even begin with so much information? Yeah,
So I definitely think I'm at the planning stage, like mentally about it.
yeah,
Like, I have all the ideas, but it's like me getting it out and presenting those ideas and like it's kind of challenging because there's me as like I don't know, the main person that's looking at it is just like, oh, maybe I can't do that, or maybe I shouldn't step there or go into that topic about certain things. So it's just like I'm holding myself back with it,
uh-huh,
but I definitely do want to tell a story for sure. And I was labeled as like a multi-opportunist, so it's like many things I could touch upon.
okay. You're multi-talented, sort of?
Yes.
Yeah.
So there's like music aspect, there's my visual artistry, cooking, many different things that
Yeah.
I'm interested in. So it's like, what topic could I, present?
Yeah,
like,
I
I
guess
know I
you're
can-
touching on a couple things for me. One is a principal problem or question, and that is, I guess I'll say it the way it plays out for me, and you'll correct me. Telling my story can hurt other people. It could happen. Can hurt my family. Happens all the time. There are questions. Telling my stories in certain times in my life can put me at risk. So there are these things to navigate, and then you want to understand how you want to take it on. Do you want to tell your full story and maybe wait with its publication, but tell it correctly? Do you want to tell your full story, and sometimes during your lifetime you may feel more safe, and you'd have less things at stake for you personally, and less people caring about these issues, so like a lot of people publish books and stuff when their parents die, like because it's a time to do things like that, things that you were kind of holding yourself back for, but it could be family, it could be community. So that is one thing, and it's a real thing, and I feel it all the time when I paint. There's always this negotiation of what is public and what is private, and do I paint it if it's fully private? Sometimes I do, and I know these are pieces that I will never show to anyone, and sometimes I don't, because this is only worth it for me if I can paint and publish. So it really depends. And the other thing you touched on is the idea of a plan, right? Like, so you're at the beginning of the process in a way, and so you have the different sort of problem. You're touching, we're entering the process from a different perspective, and that is not that different though. What you have is, let's call it infinite potential. It's not really infinite, but it's that, when you begin, there's a lot that you can do. And the more you do, the less potential you have, but the more diverse what you have done is. So it becomes, that is the part that could be overwhelming. And so there's always something overwhelming, and there's always a decision to be made about what your story is. And you can decide that your story is multifaceted, conflicting, paradoxical, and multiple, like not one. So you can decide that you can make decisions that would help you, but if you have that nudge of, oh no, there is one thing that I'm just trying to touch on, then it takes for work. It's a call for work on purifying and processing, maybe with a lot of other people as well, I would say. How about you?
First of all, the physical, just dealing with the physical material. And I can foresee as I start to frame things, that will be a big thing. It's where to put framework, storage, having spaces that I can keep privatized, things like that. Physical organization of it. The documentation, there's some slides from long ago. There's a few things I've started to scan, but when I can scan them or just photograph them. But not really many of them slide though lately. So there's that stuff. The story is an interesting idea that I haven't thought of. And I can see that in a lot of different ways. But one of the things that came to mind for me, for myself, would be times when I saw that something I thought, a kind of discovery that something wasn't important, that it was of this direction. I guess, for example, the big one is the difference between making a drawing to look like something and making a drawing to experience. And that if I make a drawing that I really is corresponding to an experience, to like, I guess, imagining the tap or whatever, that it's really paying attention to it, instead of it making it look like, oh, this is how a cloud would look, or this, you know, even though I might be drawing from a photograph, if I'm drawing especially something physical,
Yeah,
that there's something in the drawing that's not in a drawing that's just made to look like something.
mm-hmm.
And that would be an example
Of a story.
Of this,
Yeah,
something in this.
yeah,
A big problem for me is remembering where things are. Especially if I try and get it organized, then I'm really in a mess. If it's been disorganized for years, I know where it is.
uh-huh.
Once I put it in order, can't find it anymore.
It's a physical organization of it. No, it's a real problem.
Thing. A lot to remember.
There's a lot,
A
what?
lot to remember.
Yeah, and who wants to remember all of that anyway?
I'm always searching for things that I can't find that I just put away a few days ago.
Yeah. So I think there is a call for, asking ourselves, what is our relationship with forgetfulness, with letting go, because what this is like separating from things. And, when I forget something, sometimes like, like, okay, it was in my head a minute ago, it was, and now it's not. Now, do I feel less complete as a human being because I lost that bit of information? And so I think what sometimes it can be is a purifying kind of cycle when you will, there's going to be gravity towards what matters most, and you will remember more what comes, most often. And so I don't know how memory, like my memory is not good. It was never good, but I was able to kind of, I don't know, make things work, but by writing things down and, pretty much everything I'm thinking I need to write down. And in the end, I remember it very well because I work on it so much. It's like, how can you not, but I think there is a question there of, in my mind, if you are willing to let it, if you're able to let it go, maybe it should, maybe it should go. And things that need to stay will stay, And that is the hard part about this project, is that it really is about death, and we don't want to talk about it, but this is what it is. And it's about yourself in history, which is, it doesn't mean that your end isn't near necessarily, but just worrying about what it's like for, for people to engage with your work without you is something that it's a hard thing, right? It's a hard idea. So there's a lot that, I think can nourish the story and give it the gravitas that will help you make decisions about what you let go of and what you keep. What about you, Gwen?
While you're saying that, it's reminding me the depth of my paintings and my sculptures and everything. I was living through Hurricane. But that was a death in itself. I had 20 years of artwork that just disappeared. We had just built a new studio because out of the 6 people in my immediate family, my children, my husband, and I, we're all artists of some sort. And so we had all of this artwork that went under. So I'm thinking while y'all are all talking about it, that it's so much better to make the decision to archive and put it in its proper place or where you think you want it, to give it away, have a party and have everyone come like
Yeah.
earlier, and everyone take
Why
a
not?
piece,
Yeah,
because at least that decision is yours.
yeah,
In my case, in the case of my immediate family, that was not our decision. That was put upon us by Mother Nature and the circumstances.
yeah.
We took a few things, but not the most important things. One being a carving that my father did of Jesus when he was in World War II, that I cherish dearly. He did it with a little penknife and a piece of wood. And the thing was on my wall forever. And every time we moved, or every time we evacuated, we took it with us.
Yeah,
But I didn't, and my father's been deceased for a long time. He was born in 1910, so he's been gone a long time. And that particular piece of art that I cherish more than any art I had, when I went back to the house after it had 6 feet of water in it, and we finally got back in, I walked in the door and I saw it on the wall. And thought, oh my God, it survived some sort of way. I was so excited. And when I touched it, it disintegrated. It just fell apart. I was like, wow, something you see in a movie. It was just so weird.
Wow.
So I'm thinking about what you're saying. And to be deliberate with archiving our work is so much better than having it be taken away from. That is like a wound that won't heal with me. I've had to let it go. But I'm also thinking about all the things that created sense. And I actually stopped doing art because of that for like 10, 15 years old. At least 10 years.
yeah.
And so I had made a decision that I would not let that happen yet. But you can't take everything with you every time you evacuate. But you can, not miles, that wasn't the way I could take it all of it. But you can actually make plans and arrangements for things now. Even at your attending ages, you can make arrangements for things. I do have 2 pieces, last little statement I'll make, that survived. That was my very first painting ever. It was done on a cardboard box. It was just blocks of color and like a city reflection, which was weird. And then my very first oil painting I did, which was really small. That survived. I have no idea how, but I cherish that so much. So then I'm thinking about, so where does it go after I'm gone? So it really, you both with a lot of thought with this conversation, because I think systematically taking care of it now is the best thing to do. But I also believe that different pieces of your work, like Mira was saying, you have different levels of work and different things that you've accomplished over time. I believe that they have a different priority when it's being done. There's a priority to how you make the work, you perceive it, and you put it out there in the world. But it really has to be a major priority as to how you want to preserve it. Yeah, well, it has to be priority to do this because this is so costly. Who needs to do it? Only whoever needs to do it needs to. Time consuming. Time, money, space, it's when you feel that it's not just you, but people around you too, are just not willing to let that go, right? So then there is a question of, okay, and that goes into your question or your, I guess, predicament, right? This is no longer about me. This is about whoever is left behind. Now, my kid doesn't even like my paintings. He doesn't need it. Maybe he will when he's older, I don't know. Right? So what am I really leaving it for? And that takes a different turn, right? Because now you're asking, what does my community need? And then maybe we'll ask them, maybe you don't have to decide this by yourself, and you will bring them in and the people that are important to you, and you'll think together on what actually is meaningful for the community to have of you.
but you can also make decisions, which I think is so important. I mean, it's important to me also in terms of art making, like to create the to engage with history and to kind of critically engage with it, let's say. And that is to see this, and every time where I'm asked to talk about my work, to write about my work, to send, you know, to write about other people's work, to make decisions about other people. Every time I have these types of decisions, I am contributing to a certain story about what happened here at this time, you know, here in Lafayette, here by, you know, whatever group I belong to is, you know, is being told through that. So then it becomes not really a duty, but really, you know, if you're thinking about who's busy making history, what voices are actually out there, and what corrections would you like to make to those voices? Because, you know, people that have power now and are writing now may not have the same advantage 500 years from now, you know? So it's hard. Like, do you care about things happening 100 years from now or no? That's a real question. So that's why we should have dinner together and talk about this and not a workshop. But it's, I'll continue with this because I think, you know, it gives us a little bit of a map of where we stand. And, you know, we touched on just with here a few problems, right, with archiving that I think everyone will have in some ways. Like, we all deal with loss. And a lot of this project is about is about coming to terms with loss and deciding what will not be lost. We all deal with this overwhelm, whether it is a potential or an actual, that, you know, confuses us. And of course, if we're here, we have some physical spaces to manage. We have a physical problem. We have a physical problem, right? Many ways that we need to solve physically. If there were people here from a digital art, I would talk about this a little bit. But it's not that different. It's the same principle. And so I think that just getting that little bit of feedback from everyone kind of shed lights on the different problems that we would have. Can I understand now how we doing with time, Anna? Wrapping it up? Okay.
I looked at my there and I said, oh, it's 5 to 6. I forgot. Well, the time changed. It's really 5 to 7.
I'm feeling the time change. I really am feeling it. So I can share this with you, and what I can do in so wrap it up. So just a few minutes is kind of to show you what's there, because really in the end, this is a process that you need to go through by yourself. And I'm sharing like what I've found in terms of resources. So they have a bit that is about creating that support system that you will that you need for the work, for planning this whole process. So in this is an example of them working through the kind of skills you would, you know, people that work with you will need. So the kind of skills you may need, people that can handle the physical art, the physical objects, the people that know about art and art history enough to navigate your instructions, organizations that have worked with you, that have information or pieces, some of your information about your work or your works, and people with communication and writing skills. It could be different people. It could be the same person. In some ways, it's better if it's more than one person, because when that person moves away, you're like crushed. So it's better to have a few people, and then some of them could be you. At first, it's all you. Let's face it. But once you're able to kind of control more, it could be people that you pay, but it could also be people who care about your work. They have a whole chapter there, and they're kind of guiding you through how to contact people in your community, not necessarily for pay, but people who would be interested in, they will be your partners in maintaining or securing your legacy because they care about it. Especially if you've been teaching. You said you've been teaching before? Is that what I heard?
I haven't taught art.
Oh, okay. But yeah, we're not gonna step on it because we have to go, but whatever way you engage with the community, this will be your point to just get a sense of who cares about my work, And I think you'll be surprised, people care a lot more than you do sometimes. They don't want to see your work gone, and they will collaborate with you. This is an example of a worksheet that is, I can't even read, but these are different types of costs. So costs related to the physical space. So it could be rental, it could be protection. So everything to do with physical spaces. Costs that have to do with keeping the records, could be software, purchasing, could be things that are connected to the digital realm. People, so how much you pay them, and sometimes if you don't pay them, they were talking a little bit about hospitality. And like to have it in your system to write the thank you notes and send some gifts and do all of that. So even if you don't pay, you put it down. And of course, the last one is the time. You will get a few pages that if you see it on your computers, you should have the links working. And the core questions, and that goes back into the reasons, the why, the stories. And what I would do before ending is just show you the different things in the end of this presentation. I put this in because it gives a little bit of a list of what could be saved. So it just to give you a sense of, the variety of objects and types of things that actually go into an archive. And then this is from the experts that go into starting this process, and they start with the physical aspect of it and take you through the next steps. So this is kind of going a little bit in depth in what that first step looks like. What to keep. And this is not a comprehensive list, but again, it's a list of objects that may be you may not think about. So legal documentations, contact, people that you've been in touch with. So imagine that, people want to contact people who knew you, right? So a solid contact information of the people could be very useful, very necessary. And this is what a first list could look like, of just, this is in that closet, and this is in this closet. This is the very beginning. What is archival? You can read that. And I'm going to go into the area that starts with the inventory itself. These are the types of kind of vessels that the archive would have, right? So these are what you would hope the archive would do. You'd hope to be able to send forms from it, send reports, search easily, and of course you'll have a table of content with all the information that you need. And and you may need only one or two or a few of these. You may not need all of that, or there may be something you need that is not in this list, but it's what that gives, I think, is the way it is centered on what is this for? Where is this going? And so whatever you need your work, wherever you need your work to go, whoever you need your work to reach, will determine what sort of elements you need in your archive to do. Now, these are just links for you to look into those top 5 inventory management apps for artists. That these are services, which means you don't have to do everything by yourself. You can do things digitally. I tried Artlook for a while. These are subscriptions though. So I'm not crazy about subscriptions, generally speaking, but this is where we're going, you know. So the few places where these are not needed yet, I would go for, but these are design-based. That means you don't have to write code, and you can get it to work. I tried with Artlook, and what that experience looked like was a few years ago. And I did this for 2 years and then I stopped. And it was like $300 a year. It was not little, you know, it was an experiment. And I had to insert every piece with all of the information on it, and which annoyed me a lot because I just wanted things done like that. And then once they were in the system, there were, of course, a lot more data entry points to put in. So you could edit what type of information you need for each piece. So you could put information that is like, where is it? How much did it sell for, or how much does it cost if it does sell? What exhibitions was it in? What other works is it connected to? You can upload PDFs with text files. So all of these things you can edit. So it's not like mandatory. And then once it's in the system, say a gallery contacts me and I want to send them a few pieces, I can easily collect the pieces, and there'll be a slide sheet made out of this. I ended up leaving them because what I really needed was a way to share the archive itself. And there was no way to share my view of the archive without giving away my passwords. So my only way to share that was, to share the pieces was through those slide sheet, you know, like, what do you call it? Slide sheets, right? Like with all of, like a bullet, like little icons of each piece. And that was not enough for me for what I needed. So, you know, but it's there. It is easier in many ways, right? It is easier. And what I'm doing now is I have like an external hard drive that I use. And I am paying money for this. I'm paying money already. I pay extra because my house includes more space than I actually need for a living. You know, it cost me the subscription to iCloud. So I have things on the cloud, I have things in a physical hard drive, and I have in a few other locations, like smaller things, but these are my main kind of 2 places. And, you know, I pray that it will be okay, but the deal is if you're not saving things somewhere else, you need to have a lot of copies. And so I also save things on the drive, on Google Drive. So I have 3 kind of online, 2 online and 1 physical. But in some ways, maybe the physical, right? You know, paper and pen would be safest. Okay, these are, again, other things, and everything that you see here would be things that are explored in depth in that, in the book, which I do recommend that you look at. And there are 3 pages here. These are all the categories that you may include about the piece. Not, you don't have to have everything, but these are just ideas about what information you can put in there. So of course, the inventory number is very, very important. And that is the kind of the anchor of everything that maintains that you're not going to repeat yourself. But the interesting bits are, okay, what title, what series, type of art that is, date created, and it can have more esoterical or a specific to you and your work. You know, where has it traveled, right? So I don't think I see a picture of programs. So the bibliography, you know, you can have an item from your bibliography in that section linked to that piece. So for example, if you exhibited a piece that was written about somewhere, then you can add that little bibliography in that section. When you have an exhibition record, what information you need to have there, and the contact sheets of the people. So these are just references. Don't take it as something that is intimidating. It's just to show you what can be saved. It is in the end your endeavor. It's your choice. It's also your choice to not save anything if you want to, you know. It is really your choice. And so you can decide, you know, I'm going to create a small and unique collection. It's going to be a quality base, and it's going to pass, and it's going to be I'm just saying, you know, I can imagine that I'm just going to create an exhibition, a singular exhibition of this. Anyway, just don't be intimidated by this. I did not know if we'll have some people from digital art, so I included some. I'm not a digital artist per se. I'm very physical, but I included in here information from a few sources on digital arts and how to archive elements that are digital, that are born digital. So there's a list of possibilities there. Anna, can you see that? Okay. We will not go in there, but just for you to know what's there. These are the first steps that they advocate for, and every one of these steps opens up in the workbook to a full lengthy kind of explanation, and then worksheets based on each of these sections. And you can really take this home. And then in the end, there is a little comparison between the two of the most popular database software that are not subscription based, that like you would pay, it's a one-time fee kind of base. So it's a lot more money, but you can kind of see what it looks like. So you may not need to buy a specific software, or you do. I'm not, for me, at this point in my life, I don't want it because a few reasons. I don't want to be dependent on anything other than myself. I know I have the files, they're organized in a way that I understand, that are transferable to different needs. I am able to create work, you know, like database or, you know, Excel sheets and sheets for the galleries. These are not hard for me. So, so I gain more in that way. But if you do want to, you know, want to outsource this, then you have a little bit of comparison there. And the last bit. So this is really the end. This is actually just really cool if it will come up. No? Something I found along the way. Okay, it's before this slide. It's the slide of, it's a way to create a book. So I just bought this book, the physical book, because I'm a fan. And the way they do it is they have the book, loaded to this website. And when somebody buys it, they actually pay for the printing and the shipping of it. And that could be also a beautiful way to create a legacy project in my mind, where you're making a book. And so maybe the work is stored somewhere, but the book itself could be bought by family members and students, and it's an easy way to make it happen with low costs. This is just a little picture from my one of my USBs. No, this is actually my hard drive, a little area. And so just a few of my tricks of how I made this, I'm organizing this in this point in my life. And that is, I decided that whatever I need the name, whatever the title of the piece is going to be the title of the file. And that way I'll always have it. And so then it became, well, I don't just have a file, I have a collection of files. So, for example, this is a painting that I made, and in it you see, basically I have a folder for each painting in this series. So here are a few of my series. This is from the past a couple years. And in each series you see the paintings. So wait, okay. So this is one piece. In it there is the file. So this is a JPEG file that I actually send out, and it has the full title in it. So I will never have to look for it. It's always there. And then I have the sources. Sometimes I have 2 pictures there. Sometimes I have 30 pictures there. Sometimes I have a lot of details. Sometimes I don't. But what that does is everything that has to do with this piece goes in that file, in that folder. That's one way that worked for me. And then the other thing that happens so this is the series, you have a folder for each piece, and then you have the contact sheets. And okay, I forgot that it's not my computer, but if you click on the contact sheet, you'll see the actual, it's a PDF with a contact sheet on all of these pieces with the text that I write on it, that explain what the series is. And right now it works. If I need to send it somewhere, I can go here and quickly pull it off, and it's building itself as I use it. So I think my main decision at this point is every time I have an event, an exhibition, or a short-term goal of any kind, I use it to make another step in the long-term goal. So I never just, what do you call it? Turn off the fire, like, what do you call this? Do you have this expression in English? Like put the fire down. I never only put the fire down, I also like try to imagine, okay, how would this function for the future? And that's how it works. And then this is sort of what it looks like from the other side. This is a painting. I only have 2 paintings in actual collection. One I could have had 3, but I have 2. And this is one of them. And this is an established collection. So it kind of shows me what information they have. So they have, the title, materials, sizes, my name. They have a share option, which is really nice for a collection to have. Not all of them have it. Sorry. And then they have the year it was created, the inventory number, right? And then what collection it's in, the name of the collection. And so this tells me that these are the elements they have in their inventory list. So it's kind of like a reference to, okay, this is what they need. That's good to know. Maybe it's a good start to understand what is useful. And then something, at some point, a student in Davidson College I guess they had an assignment in a class to go in the storage, and somebody went in and she wrote about my piece. And so now it's connected to that collection, to that website. It's actually, it's like a link that is connected to that. So all of these things kind of give you an idea, I guess, of really what you want to do is you want to link yourself to yourself, right? As much as possible, but also to external sources possibly. And maybe, I really like the idea of coming together a few people and making these legacy projects that also refer to each other and are in conversation with each other in some ways. That could be really very cool. And you have an example of a worksheet in the end. And so this is what you have in the slide presentation. I don't think there's any. So the spirit of it the spirit that I would take this presentation in is go into that first page or second page where you see, I'll try to go there actually, where you see the webpage with a lot of the links from Creative Capital to the Creative Capital page, and you can work your way from there. But my recommendation is to take the first step at the John Mitchell Foundation and to just check out this book. Because and if you don't like to read books or it's too much, because it's, you can listen to it as an audiobook.
What is it?
We can link to it.
Oh, okay, thank you.
We can link to it, and what it is, it's here, it's in this. Oh, see, I don't know why it's not showing.
Anna's gonna send it out.
Okay, but I can actually just show it, and this is how we can end. This is the John Mitchell Foundation. See, johnmitchellfoundation.org. Very simple. And in it, you have a lot of other things too, by the way. It's a very good place to just get obsessed about. But in it, you have legacy planning guides. And what comes up next is this career documentation. Actually, I think you can look at it online. See, this is download, and this is online. No, I don't want to. Okay, I was checking. But yeah, if you download it on your computer, or if you even just go on Spotify and you do, and you look for that title, you will find it in the podcast. And this is what I did to buy it, actually. That's it.
So much.
You're very welcome. I
And
hope it was useful.
share that information, and yeah, as I said, I emailed everybody with a link to not only the Zoom, the recording of this, but also the links to the legacy planning book, and anything else that Hagit's talked about tonight as well. So and Hagit and I were told again about what might the next steps be, that if you all want to respond to the email that I sent, if you've got any ideas about what you want more information about, certainly dive deeper into the next steps for all of you.
Yeah, if we want to form a little group of people that would just, share resources and meet together, it's just it will be easier to make it happen. So that if there is an interest to that, I think that could be really great. But we can keep talking.
Yeah. Thanks for the conversation.
Thank you for sharing.
You're right here,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm so glad. Thank
Answered a lot of questions.
I think I went to